Hi everybody and welcome back. Perioccular dermatitis, perioral dermatitis, and my ongoing battle with them. I put a piece up on Instagram about 10-11 days ago now, showing my eye close up. It's so hard to take pictures of a part of your skin super high res. And the reason I discovered that was because I had to take a picture because I slid into a friend of mine, Dr Anjali Mahto, who I regularly do Instagram lives with. She's a clinical dermatologist who specialises actually in acne, the treatment of acne, but obviously she's a dermatologist, so she just knows skin. And I slid into her DMs one day and said, take a look at this, do me a favour, what the hell have I done to my under eye? And she diagnosed me. So let's go back to how I think I contracted periocular dermatitis, how it is related to my perioral dermatitis, my history of treating both, but also more importantly, what I could use and how I helped it repair, and it still hasn't repaired. If you're watching this on a widescreen TV, heaven forbid why you would want to see this face in a widescreen TV, but it's right under this eye, but I'm going to drop in various pictures. Be warned, they're not a pretty sight. It is today's Thursday, this video goes up on Sunday, and I have waited and waited and waited to film this because I wanted to be in a situation where it looked vaguely okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back to the beginning. So a week ago Saturday night, I went to bed with, my skin was feeling a bit grey, a bit lackadaisical. I'd probably just, not really exfoliated properly. I'd sort of cut back on some of the actives because I don't leave the house very often. I guess I just got lazy with my skin anyway. It was looking a bit grey and a bit dull. And I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll just do an overnight lactic acid peel. I will not name the product because I love this product and I regularly use it and I've had no problems at all. So I covered my face in a really thin area, and I would never take an acid peel anywhere within that area, which is the periocular area. This is called the ocular bone here. It's the sort of dent when you look at a skull. It's the sort of where the skull ends around here. And the reason for that is simple, and you'll notice this if you use eye products, is there's something called a wicking action, and it happens because the skin is finer and it is very, very, very heavily vascularized around there, which is why it's sensitive. But also when you get to my age, you've got fine lines, and product has the tendency to sit in fine lines and wick up. It will happen to you. You'll know if you've put an SPF on your face and then suddenly your eyes are itching 2 or 3 minutes later, even though you put it nowhere near your actual eyeballs. So that's a wicking action. It's something that does happen around the eyes anyway. Anyway, I went to bed Saturday night, didn't think anything of it, and I often forget what I've done the night before, and I woke up on Sunday morning and my first thought was, ow, my right eye is sore. And by sore, I mean I had an awareness of the skin. It was red, it was hot, it was slightly throbbing, and then when I rubbed my eye, when you wake up in the morning and you do that, it was ouch. And I looked into the mirror, and what I saw was what I described to Anjali Mahto as red welts under my eyes. And it started off just here with one right in the centre, and I sort of thought, oh, actually maybe it's a spot or a piece of congestion or anything, and I sort of left it alone. Sunday I don't tend to wear makeup anyway. I just sort of cleansed my face really gently. The top of it came off and it was a little bit sore, but I didn't worry about it. And then on Monday morning I woke up and I had 3 large welts right under my eye, and I've got 2 still left, the original one and then the larger one at the end. And I'm going to drop in pictures now and show you what it looked like. I'm going to show you, actually it didn't look that bad originally, because the welts are skin coloured, and this is the difference between what I know to be dermatitis, my dermatitis, and what a lot of people think is a breakout. I do get pustules, and there were more welts under my eyes, but when I get my perioral dermatitis, and when people slide into my DMs and go, what is this around my face? I always ask 2 things. The tiny pustules that appear, when you squeeze them or you scratch them, does what come out look like traditional spot contents like pus? Like, is it cloudy? Is it white? That's not dermatitis. That tends to be the sign of a blocked pore or a piece of congestion, something like that. What comes out of the pustules that appear around my nose if I get perioral dermatitis, and if I leave it really badly, right down and down here, is completely clear. It's literally white blood cells, it's lymph. And that's exactly what happened under the eye. And so I slid into poor Anjali's DMs and I said, can you help? And she said, yeah, of course, send me high-res pictures. And she said straight away, yeah, you've got periocular dermatitis. And she said, do you suffer from perioral dermatitis? And I went, oh yeah. She went, well, you've probably got the medication you need for it. But what you need to do is you need to basically strip everything out of your skincare. No acids, no retinols, no active ingredients. In fact, she said, you'll know what you can and can't use because the minute you use something on your skin, because your barrier function is totally impaired, it's literally blown out because of the acid that you've accidentally got under your eye. She said, then, you know, you'll barely be able to cleanse your skin even with water. And she was right, because water actually did hurt on my eyes in the early days. Like if I got in the shower, rinsed my face off, like it was seriously sore, like this sort of throbbing red hotness under the eye. And that's exactly what periocular and perioral dermatitis is. It's a fundamental breakdown of the barrier function, normally caused by either contact or irritant dermatitis. And dermatitis is simply an inflammation of the top layer of the skin. It's an inflammation of the skin, that's all it is. Originally, when I developed my perioral dermatitis, and I will link the video of the history of my perioral dermatitis below, I was having a facial with a friend of mine called Jackie Ripley, and we were actually in adjoining rooms having an Ayurvedic facial. And we both suffered from it exactly the same time. We had this sort of Ayurvedic paste pot on our face. And this area here is, again, really highly vascularized, super fine skin. And we started itching here. And when we came out, we went, oh, does that sting under your nose? And is it sort of sore now? And we didn't know what to do. And we went away and we actually battled it for years. And both separately, her via a GP and myself via a cosmetic doctor, discovered that what we were doing to treat it was putting hydrocortisone on it. Steroid cream is the worst thing you can do. It gets rid of it temporarily and then it bounces back. And then what we both decided that the course of action was we both like unscented skin care, super gentle. You'll notice if ever you see me put on vitamin C's or retinols on my face in any sort of get ready with me step skincare tutorials, I don't put anything here like this, down here in that area. And I also tend to put things really, really close to eyes. As I say, take it up to the bone and no further. Anyway, what Anjali Mahto said to me was, she said, how on earth did you get acid around your eyes? And I said, I literally don't know. But after you've applied your acid, did I wash my hands that night? Did I accidentally scratch my eye afterwards? She said it might not even been bad. You literally might have put a sort of slightly mask-like layer on your skin, turned over in the middle of the night, it got onto the pillow and then got into your eye. And she said it's so easily done, don't panic. And I know it's easily done, and I know lots of you have suffered, because my DMs then blew up and you were, that's what I've got. It's not under my eye, it's on my chin. It's not under my eye, it's around my nose. It's all a form of periocular, periorbital. So periocular is around the eye, periorbital is on the upper and lower eyelid, or perioral, around the nose and the mouth, dermatitis. And the treatments are surprisingly similar. So let's go into how I treated mine. First, do no harm. You'll barely be able to cleanse your skin. So the first rule is, and I said to Anjali, I can't do this, no makeup. But look how I make my living. I left it as long as I could, not having any makeup on. And actually it's not the application of the makeup that's the problem, although the first thing I did was go upstairs and deep clean, anti-bac with an anti-bac gel, all of my makeup brushes, because once that barrier function has gone, what you don't want is to get any bacterial infection in there. That's when you'd be in serious trouble. So, you know, I know you're all washing your hands like crazy at the moment. I know you're all using anti-bac gels at the moment. That's good, because what you don't want is to scratch a cat or a dog or, you know, your backside and then rub your eye, because this area is lost all of its ability to keep bacteria and viruses, all that sort of stuff out, funguses out. So you've got to be really careful. So I went upstairs, washed my makeup brushes with an anti-bac hand gel, left them on the side for 15 minutes, came back, rinsed them all off, started afresh there. Then I tried not to wear makeup, but I had to wear makeup. Then I looked at the cleansers I could use, and essentially all I could use were unscented super rich cream cleansers that I love and that I would use at night, but I had to use them morning and night. It was literally the only thing I could use. In fact, what I tried to do was not get the area wet unless I really had to, especially when the welts turn to scabs, and the minute you get those scabs wet, they come off. And I'm going to drop in a picture here. This is when it looked its worst. When those welts eventually formed scabs, which I filmed a few things, and you'll see them if you go back on my films on Instagram, or even this time last week when I filmed the video that was last week. You'll notice that, I mean, I have, you know, quite lined eyes anyway because of my age and because of my history of having hay fever. But you'll notice that this eye here, this right eye, so your left, you'll notice it was much more swollen, and I was just putting concealer on trying to hide it. Anyway, back to the cleansers that I could use, and they did not sting, because at some point, even my beloved CeraVe Hydrating Gel Cleanser, my Fresh Soy Cleanser, I couldn't use any of the gel cleansers at all. So I could use 3 cleansers: Your Good Skin Nourishing Hot Cloth Cleanser, which is a cream emollient based cleanser, no fragrance. I could use Skin Ingredients Pre-Pro, and I did a live with Jennifer Rock, the founder of this company, the other day, and I said, thank you for creating the only cleanser I can actually use. And these are the cleansers I would recommend for anybody with hypersensitive skin, which is what I had at the time. And then Paula's Choice Optimal Results Hydrating Cleanser. They're all surprisingly similar formulations. Unfragranced, cream cleansers that essentially take all your makeup off, dissolve away clear in water, and leave the skin cool and hydrated. Only those 3 cleansers. And you know how much I love a gentle cleanser. Even my most gentle cleansers, if they were gel-based, I couldn't use around my eyes. It made me appreciate just how sensitive most people's skin is. Now, here's the difference between the way I would treat around my nose and the way I would treat around my eyes. Around my nose is, by its very nature, an area that has quite a lot of sebaceous glands around it. So I tend not to layer a lot of moisturisers around my nose, because I know I'll get little sort of white bumps and whiteheads and stuff like that. So my go-to around my nose is something called Rose X Cream. It's an antibacterial, antimicrobial cream that contains an active ingredient called metronidazole. And it's a really common prescription-based, light, very delicate, low-dose antibacterial cream. And if it gets really bad, some people actually have oral metronidazole and erythromycin, but mine has never actually got that bad, and mine has always reacted. If I feel those little pustules come up, if I've done something stupid, I've accidentally got some retinol or vitamin C, whatever, you know, I maybe haven't cleansed my skin properly, I feel those little pustules come up, and I sort of scratch my skin out, my nail over the top of them, and what comes out is that clear white blood cells, those sort of just clear, absolutely clear liquid, which is basically my lymph trying to cleanse my skin out because the barrier function is impaired. Then what I do is I slap on the Rose X, and within 2 or 3 applications, morning and night, it's gone. And if I can, I try to then go back upstairs and rewash all my makeup brushes, because what you don't want is you don't want any bacteria, viruses or fungus getting in that impaired barrier function. Around the eyes, it's different. And I say around the eyes it's different because around the eyes is a much drier area, so I could go in with heavier things. And in fact, one of the dermatologists, slid into my DMs and said, just put Vaseline around your eyes. And I thought that's actually really clever, because Vaseline is a large inert molecule that will simply form the barrier until the skin repairs, in the same way that you would put a silicone gel over a scar. It made complete sense to me. Now, this is the problem around your eyes. Around your eyes is by its nature drier. It has far less sebaceous glands, but whatever you put around your eye gets in your eye. And that's a massive pain in the arse, because your eyes then sting, they get blurry. So whatever cream you put around your eyes, if you put it right under there, and it's a thick emollient based cream, which is what my skin needed, it ended up in my eyes, which was a pain in the bum. So this is what Anjali Mahto prescribed for me, and it's something called Elidel. Now, Elidel is very different from a steroid cream. This is not a steroid cream. The active ingredient is something called pimecrolimus, and there's also a sister product called tacrolimus. And this is an immunosuppressant cream. And it might seem a little bit like, whoa, why are you using an immunosuppressant cream? But basically it was telling my skin not to overreact to the temporary impaired barrier function. It's not a long-term impaired barrier function. And I used this 3 times a day, probably for about 5 days, and that's all I needed. I could then see that the skin was beginning to form scabs and it was beginning to repair itself. I could see that my skin was getting better. The problem with that is it ends up in your eyes, which is not very pleasant. So that's what I started with. She said to me, don't use the Rose X around your eyes. Genuinely, I think it's because the basis of it, you don't really want that sort of product going into your eye. That, again, I don't really think you want any of this actually in the eyeball, but that was actually a slightly more lightweight formulation to put under the eyes. And it was literally telling my body, don't overreact to something that is self-inflicted and temporary. So, different to steroid, don't use a steroid on it. A steroid will in the short term help, and then it'll bounce back. That's the problem with all of these things. If you have some form of periocular and periorbital or perioral dermatitis, I had to remember all of those O's there. Then steroid creams can help in the short term, but it will bounce back. So what did I find that I could use around it? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've mentioned this, but this was the serum, my go-to serum, because I do like serums around my eyes. And my eyes got really dry as a result because I couldn't put anything around them. I couldn't put any skincare around them at all. And that obviously is La Roche-Posay Toleriane Dermalégio. And I love it. I mean, look, you know, I've got to need to open a new one now. The only thing I can find to complain about that is that the dropper doesn't hit to the bottom, so you get to the point where you have to open it up and put it in your hand. I love it. Even when it was red open welts that were almost bleeding, I could put that on it. No problem. No soreness, no stinging, doesn't get in your eyes. It's a great serum. Then what I could do, because I could slowly build up to using, once I stopped using the Elidel and eye cream, and what I used that worked brilliantly for me was CeraVe Eye Repair Cream. And CeraVe Eye Repair Cream is unfragranced and it's just loaded with ceramides. And at that point, the barrier function was good enough to be able to take that level of active ingredients. And to this day, that's still what I'm using morning and night, just a tiny bit under there, just to soften the skin. Two other things that I found that I could use close to my eyes and actually didn't hurt it at all. And that was this one, which I think is really interesting. I do love this and I've talked about it a lot. This is the Clinique Moisture Surge Intense Unfragranced. All of these have to be unfragranced. Now you know why I bang on about unfragranced skincare. If you've never suffered from periocular, perioral or periorbital dermatitis, feel free to slap all the fragrance on your skin. But if you have and you're prone to it, I have to avoid them like the plague. I really do. I mean, I could put them on here. Nobody would care about this. But anywhere around that T-zone and I'm asking for trouble. It worked brilliantly. And then the other one I could use was this one, which I've mentioned as well. This is the brand new Paula's Choice CBD Skin Transformation Milk. Although interestingly enough, that one actually did bring me out slightly in sort of slightly occluded whiteheads. I was actually using it all over my face because it's actually quite rich. Even though it's a milk, it sounds weird, but it's actually quite rich. So that might be better for drier skins than mine, although my skin is sort of normal to, what would I describe my skin as now? It's probably normal through the T-zone and then drier on the outer areas. So here's my advice. You'll know you've got it because it is small red pustules and it's either an allergic form of dermatitis or it's a contact form of dermatitis. So by an allergy, I mean something you might develop to, you know, let's be honest, hay fever could cause it. Spores in the air could cause it, pollen in the air could cause it. It could be a fragrance that you're using. It could be a hair product that you're using. It could be anything essentially that comes into contact with your skin. Mine was definitely contact. I know because I'd used this product loads of times before and it only hurt under the eye. I still to this day do not know how I got it under my eye, but we all make mistakes. It's so easy to do. When I told Dr. Mahto, she said, Nadine, there are a million different ways you could have transferred that, but I've learnt my lesson. Once you apply your acids, do wash your hands. Especially if, like me, you have quite sensitive eyes that are prone to hay fever and prone to irritation, so I tend to rub them quite a lot. I've also found out that having a history of hay fever and sensitive eyes will make you more prone to it in the future, so I'm going to have to be careful from now on. Wash all your makeup brushes. Double wash them, triple wash them. If you have a breakout around your nose or around your eyes, be careful what you put your makeup on with. Please go away, wash your sponges, leave them on the side in an anti-bac hand wash or an anti-bac spray, and then rinse them clear away. You don't want to risk anything getting through that impaired barrier function. I tell you how I treated it, which I thought was really interesting. It's often mistaken for cold sores. Now, I have never had a cold sore around my eyes, but I know you can. But as it was healing, it was very similar in the sense that it would form a large welt and a scab, and every time that scab got wet, it would come off. And that delays the healing process. Hence the fact, if you can, try not to get that area wet, try not to wear makeup because you're having to remove the makeup, and as you remove the makeup, you will remove the area that is repairing itself. And finally, don't beat yourself up if you've got it. It's a sign of having an impaired barrier function, and most commonly amongst my followers, it's because you've overdone the skincare. The amount of people that slid into my DMs and said, oh, vitamin C eye cream did that to me, or oh, a retinol eye cream did that to me, or oh, I accidentally scratched my face after applying fill in the blank. And I think the thing is, we forget how delicate the skin around our eyes is. And in fact, how delicate the skin around our nose is. If you think of that skin, it's sort of thickened, it's got a layer of fat underneath, it's more heavily pigmented. This area is more vascularized, it's finer, it takes longer to heal, it's much more sensitive. Be careful with actives around those areas. If you think about this, a little bit in there, be careful. As I said when I did my first video about perioral dermatitis, this area is actually used as a sort of flagship area A for testing sensitivity to skin products. They don't test it here or here, they test it here. And if, like me, you've got a history of hay fever, you have thinned the skin around your eyes through constant rubbing, using hay fever medications around your eyes. In fact, one of the things that they say is stop using, if you are using and you get any of this, stop using any steroid eye drops or nose sprays. I use them for at least 6 months of the year because of my hay fever, it's so bad. So I know that I have a history that leaves me vulnerable to it. So this area is just highly vascularized and the skin is really fine. And if you're prone to it, you're prone to it. But you know what? I am too. So, and most people look to me and think, well, if she gets it, how bad can it be? I mean, we're in this together, right? Tell me if you've suffered from it. Tell me what you use. I have to say, I'm going to plead with you to take all the fragrance out of your skincare, to use cream-based cleansers that respect your skin, and try some of the products that I've tried. You know, you don't need anything super high-end and super expensive to repair your barrier function. You need unfragranced ceramides, emollients, hydrators. I particularly like that. That's got that dipeptide in, but there are other lightweight hydrating serums out there as well. You can't use anything with any vitamin C or retinol or acid in it. And probably for quite a long time afterwards. I can't imagine a time when I can actually start putting actives around my eyes again. So that's my takeaway. We're in this together. Don't feel it's really bad, but you are going to have to see a medical expert to get the prescription you need if the simple act of using gentle, unfragranced skincare that I've mentioned doesn't help you repair your barrier function. If it's ongoing, if after 2 weeks it's still there and it's still sore and it's still red, you're gonna need some sort of either topical antimicrobial, i.e. Rosex, which is the metronidazole. If it gets really bad, you could need oral antibiotics, but you might also need a topical immunosuppressant like Elidel. Your GP and your dermatologist will be your best friends, trust me, and they've seen it all before. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. We're in this together. See you soon.